Hello people, and welcome back to part 8 of Ilos, our modded Cities Skylines build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And thank you so much indeed for all the support last time out. You guys really enjoyed the Tucson University build, and so did I. Easily one of my favourite campuses we've ever put together on the channel, I think. Really nice inspiration to take from Tucson University. And it's nice to see people moving around now, and all this asset placement coming into play. So thank you so much indeed for all the support. However, in today's episode, I want to work on a dedicated service area, if you like, okay? So what we're going to be doing is using BadPeanut's interactive prison assets, alongside some industry as well, and hopefully some other clever use of different assets to create Ilos's maximum security prison, which is going to sit kind of in this space here. And maybe a wing opposite the dried up riverbed as well. We'll kind of see what happens today. But nice big space to work with, and indeed some ideas that we can take from Google Earth as well. Let's build a prison, shall we? So I'm just going to start by giving a little forest brush to the whole area, so we can place our own trees and props in and whatnot. And then I want to start coming down off of this road here, okay? So let's clear up this one right here, and find ourselves a new road to go and place the prison on. So I think we're going to start bringing one of these little US 2-lane roads down to serve as the spine that we can place everything off. So we'll have it run down here for the time being, alright? And this is going to be great. So I think we're going to start with building kind of the main prison entrance, okay? So this isn't where the prisoners are going to be located, but something of a administration building where visitors would arrive, guards would arrive for the day, etc. So I think we're going to start introducing some big parking lot roads here to help accommodate the front of this building. So let's come out by 20 units each side right here, okay? And then we'll dive into big parking lots as well. Let's come ahead and grab ourselves a drive road initially. So we'll come out by 21 instead. That's going to allow us to place our big parking lot roads a little easier. So we'll try those again. Let's come back into our drive roads. And then we can get some disabled spots up and out front. Might actually run a filler road through the middle here as well. Yes, we will. We'll also take one down through the middle. And then we can place some more accessible parking in at the front here. Very nice. I think we'll dive into some of these car parking with spaces as well, because this gives us the room to place the curb in the middle, which it really adds quite a lot to the car parks if you use these spaces with that space in the middle for them. There we go. And then we can come in with our curbs now, which are under our fences. Let's go ahead and grab this one right here. Should be okay. And then it's easier with all your snapping off. And then we can just draw in a little curb here in the middle. Decide some kind of decoration palette for this. Of course, we have new trees now available with the new content drop, so we could possibly use some of these if we wanted to. So I think I can get on board with some of our taller palms. Indeed, taking a look around Google Earth, there is still kind of a ton of palms and whatnot, and repeated palm patterns even around a prison, so we'll have to make sure that we respect that palette today. And then we'll also grab a light too, just so we can illuminate our car parks. I think I'll place in a couple of parking lot lights as well. That should be good enough for us. And then we can just use move it. Let's grab props and trees and nodes as well. And then we should just be able to copy and paste this entire palette over into the other corners now. So really happy continuing to explore all these different palettes that we get with big parking lots now. I don't think that's too many palms, is it? It probably is, but it's Phoenix. There is an absolute ton of them. So for the main building itself, I do want to have some kind of administration building, and I found that kind of the high school assets, especially kind of the suburban high schools here, kind of work really nicely for what I want them to do, just to function as some kind of administration and service building. Because I don't want prisoners held immediately here. Now that one's maybe a little too obvious. Perhaps maybe the other asset here, you know, just something like this. It does have high school on it, but I'm sure we can hide that. So we'll find some way of hiding this, okay? So we don't have the high school on the front, but for a kind of a general vibe, I'm quite happy with this high school to be here. We're going to come back into our roads, and I think I'm going to grab just a regular plain road. Now with the prisons that I've taken a look at, there is kind of services on site like power, water and electric if you like, so that's definitely something I want to bring into this build. So let's have a look at some sewage first of all. I think I'm feeling one of the Sunset Harbour ones, probably the advanced water treatment plant here. We can perhaps back a couple of these onto each other. Okay, I think that's going to be relatively acceptable, isn't it? Bring one out here and see if we can squeeze one on just around the back. That's going to be fine. I think I'm mostly happy with that, and we'll get these hooked in as well. We'll also want to bring down some rural power lines into the build today as well, so we'll definitely factor these in. Let's come across the road, and then we can run these parallel back up into town and find a very brief connection point, at least until the electricity reaches over here. And this should give us already a vibe, right? I want this to be quite an isolated build today, just because of the nature of it. Alright. Cool. So I think I'm going to go ahead and repeat the car parking part on this side too, so we have double car parking. And then we can have a look at kind of decorating the front of the facility up, then actually placing some of these little modular prison blocks from BadPeanut. So what I want to do here now is just start mapping out kind of the internal road network of the prison that links the different wings together. I think come out by 20 units here. We'll have one over this side as well. This can perhaps carry on and then come down here as two. And maybe an exit just off of this way. We'll come down to about there. Let's come onto our road guideline as well. So let's start working on kind of the first wing, okay? So we'll come into our police department stuff, and this is where we get all of these new assets to play with. So we have a large prison block, a prison watchtower, a recreational facility, and a small prison block. So only 4 assets, but there's a lot we can do with these, alongside combining probably some Rico warehouse stuff here as well to get these sorts of assets in. So we can use the build not only to, you know, satisfy a policing service, but also a little bit of industrial demand in there as well. I think we're also going to make a little roundabout here at the edge of the road, just so we can do some detail in here and not just have the road kind of end like that, okay? So we'll come into node controller. We will hide our markings, and then we'll go for, I think, a 15 meter offset, and then I'm happy just to paint in very much like we did in the kind of Margrid suburb, right? Let's play with these small roundabouts. And we can possibly introduce some new trees in here. Okay, nothing too major, just a little decorative roundabout where this main building can sit against. A couple of rocks in there as well, perhaps, okay. That's not be too bad, is it? Slightly more interesting way to end a road. And now I can place my main building on here as well. We're going to go for this large prison block for right now. Okay, now we do also get fences here as well that appear under our pathways. And we can kind of draw these out. So this is really going to give us the kind of initial holding frame for the prison area. Okay, so we'll definitely run with the fence first. And again, very kind of strong parallel vibes is important here. But always happy to get a new fence, right? Kind of looks a little bit like the airport fence, actually, to be fair, from the airport's DLC. It's not too far off, is it? So we can bring this down, and we can even discuss the possibility of repeated fencing if we want to really kind of hammer home the Supermax vibes. So we'll see where we can perhaps bring this idea in a couple of different places around the prison today. So we also get a prison road with fence as well with this pack from BadPeanut, which is really cool. It's looks like it wants to be moved over a little bit, doesn't it? It's perhaps a touch too close. Yeah, so they will kind of appear with fences all around them, which is quite nice. So we can now perhaps start to bring this up along here. So I think seeing a lot of these fence vibes and isolated little blocks of prison activity, essentially, are going to be really important for developing a prison vibe today. So why don't we place a small prison block along here? We can perhaps go for 2. Maybe even 3. So these are going to send out little police trucks to pick up prisoners, which is good. We actually have some crime in the city at the minute, so it's like 5 vans are out to get 1 dude. Must be a pretty violent person. So they're going to go ahead and get that. That's nice. So I want to see if behind these blocks of activity here we can now start to form perhaps some sort of recreational facility. So we do get a recreational block that comes with like a basketball court built into it, which is fine. This is great, but I also want to do some of our own detail in here to continually flesh out this vibe, okay? And it kind of comes with all these little prison props like weight benches and stuff, so we can probably get involved with some of this detail as well today. So why don't we come on to one of our basketball decals and we can repeat this couple of times here. Now there's a few things we'll need to do to get this to fit. So we'll place one there and then we'll go for another over here too. So we definitely want to surface paint this because it's going to continually flesh out that concrete yard vibe, which is very important. Also gets rid of the grass under those decals as well, so we don't get the grass sprites going through. There we go. Maybe move one of these over just a touch. Okay, so I like these. They're a little bit bright for what I'm after, so I think what we're going to do is grab one of our road decals, and then with this on a single placement, and I think I'm just going to place some of these kind of scuffed up rough decals around, just so the yard looks a little bit used and older, you know, like it is just scuffed up a tiny little bit. It's a very small detail, but I think just having not that perfect concrete everywhere, it's going to help bring home that prison vibe a little bit easier. Again, we can see these weightlifting benches in here, so we can just include a few of them if we like. We've also got a prison table here as well. This is just after dark props, okay? Okay, so I think I'm relatively happy with this for right now, alright? I think I'm going to go with that. We can then come back to the prison fence and almost like box this in now, although the road guideline is probably going to mess with us a little bit. Okay, and then almost kind of make this prison here all part of the same yard, although there is a few prisoners spilling over the other side of the fence, which isn't the best kind of high-level security, right? But I think that's going to be fine. We'll also bring a vanilla gravel path through here too, because that's going to help illuminate the area for us. So within at least Arizona's prisons, and I'm assuming a lot of the other Southwest prisons as well, is that we get a lot of open grassy space with them. So that's definitely something we want to factor into today's build as well. I think I'm pretty happy with it. When we're placing a few more here now, we can possibly squeeze in another large prison block over here. And then we can look at finishing up this first kind of campus, I guess you like. So again, I think we'll place in maybe 2 more blocks over here. Okay, and then 1 more recreational unit as well. I think what would also be quite a cool vibe to try and implement here would be some kind of gated fenceway or passageway between the 2 facilities here. So let's bring in one that comes down here, and then we can connect into there at that point. That's going to be fine. And then we'll have one that comes, let's come off the angle snap as well, because that's going to mess with us. Perhaps up this way. I'll bring this down now and into there, and then hopefully now with just a regular vanilla pavement path. And then we'll just bring that pavement path through the middle. And again, probably touches of surface paint around the edge here are just going to help tidy it up. Kind of bring in the vibe that I'm after. So it's like a passageway to 2 different recreational facilities between the fencing. So a little something like that. Okay. Again, at night time it should give us a little bit of illumination now. And we'll start to see these little kind of courtyards and alleyways begin to develop themselves around the facility for prisoners to use. Looks like we'll definitely want some sort of light over these yards anyway. Let's see if we can find the right one. There we go. And that should be fine, right? So now we can start to develop small little yards of personality using these new prison fences, the recreational blocks, the smaller blocks, and start to piece together little facilities that can now occupy our prison space over here, alright? And of course, plenty of work to be done during our detailing time lapse as well. So again, just continuing to look at Google Earth, there's almost kind of small little micro facilities here, and I think this is going to be best served with a dirt road, if not one of the plains. I think definitely a dirt though. So really, these kind of smaller little lonely units just seem to be kind of single warehouses, if not some sort of storage facility for the prison. So I think we can run with essentially just a couple of vanilla industry assets here and then fence them in. Again, using the prison fence, which is actually under the pathways. And essentially just give them a little surrounding like that. That's literally what happens. They're just kind of smaller blocks out in between the main facilities. Which I think at night time as well should provide us with a touch of illumination once the power sinks through anyway. Alright. There's also kind of larger, more significant warehouse builds to which you would usually attribute towards kind of a main warehouse like this. So let's have a little look at perhaps positioning one of these alongside the main road in the prison as well. Okay. So we'll have that as people come down here. And we'll definitely want to get involved with some palm patterns in this place as well. Let's go. Well, I think probably one of our California short fan palms are going to be probably the most appropriate choice over here. Let's go for a slightly larger distance here. So even though I'm aware it's quite, well, at least for me, it feels quite unusual to see palm-lined roads like this in a prison complex, but it's what happens in the real world, alright? So we'll go with it. So we'll get this one to store probably just commercial zone goods for right now. Okay, there is farms nearby that we could store farming goods, but there's no real point at the minute. So that'll be fine. Let's go for that. Let's come back into our pathways. Let's go ahead and grab one of these prison roads again. We'll come on to road guideline as well. So we can start measuring out. Why don't we go for 30 by 20 here, okay, and see what we can generate with this road here. Let's also bring the fencing down onto this one too. And again, we'll come back into our police and stuff. And why don't we just stick to the smaller prison blocks here, okay? So we'll have one on the corner there. Leave a little bit of space in and have 3 this side. Maybe 1 on the outside here. And then we'll repeat the pattern for 1 on the side. And then again 1 in the middle. Okay. Did just get an achievement for prison break, which is good. Alright. This is going to be too bad. I feel like I need to turn on my European theme to get the tennis court decal, because we don't have them at the minute. But I might have to do that, because I definitely don't just want basketball courts here. And again, we can probably use these with, maybe not with the prop line tool. I think a couple of these are going to work fine. Let's have a look at some other possible detailing palettes for these little kind of sports and recreational areas that we're working on. So again, we'll bring in some concrete to get rid of the grass sprites beneath, which is massively helpful. Again, we can bring in some weights for perhaps the more beefier prisoners. A couple of these benches around here as well. I know there's also a shelter asset I'm quite keen on using. Yeah, this one right here. Even though it's a shopping cart shelter, I think we can get away with it here. How about some taller palms that are starting to almost be a little bit wilder and just appearing in and around the edge of these facilities? I don't think to have them inside the fencing would be quite dangerous. I'm not sure if palms can be weaponized. I'm sure they can by the more creative individuals, but okay. So just little pots of palms now starting to appear as well. And let's also start introducing some of these watchtowers, because of course watchtower is such a massively important aesthetic of any prison, especially up and against the highway over here, as well as we perhaps start to introduce that double layer of fencing. Okay. But you can certainly tell what it is from the highway, right? We're definitely on our way to developing some sort of vibe for the prisoners here. We've also got some tables out here we can use as well. Okay, so we'll do lots more of this during our detailing time lapse. And I definitely want to start bringing in some sort of like baseball decal as well. We'll probably have to draw out our own baseball field though. So we'll have a look at that in a minute too. Let's also not forget to continually feed our rural power lines through the build as well today, because this is going to be quite a key aesthetic alongside all the other little actions we're doing today. Bring that up to that. Should hopefully work. And sync everyone through. Yes, there we go indeed. Okay, but I think it's important that we keep an eye on the grander kind of scale of the space that the prison's taking up today, and I don't think I'm totally adverse to this for right now. It's also important that we don't forget a lot of the ore industry assets, in particular the workers' barracks here, work really nicely as part of a prison build. Perhaps also the ore maintenance building as well, but might be a little bit too big. Okay. Just realised how nice the... There's DM quarry. Wonderful. Well, that's great because we actually need the industry area to place some of these. So, of course, we're not doing an ore quarry today. But we definitely just want to bring out a little bit of DM quarry. So I can place in the workers' barracks. Paint this out just pretty roughly for right now, okay? I guess we can change this to DM prison as well, and probably integrate the main building into the front of the prison somewhere too if we wanted to, right? We can easily do this. Let's just go for there for right now. Move my little prison person over. Definitely want to use beautify our build as well to get rid of the trees. No alders. Leave. Okay. And probably replace again with a touch of the old faithful California fan palm. Okay, so I think we can actually include that as part of our little service area here. It works, doesn't it? And it's going to allow the placement of ore industry assets around now as well, which I'm definitely keen on using the oils or the ores workers barracks here. You know, maybe they're allowed to kind of come and go from the housing or the cells in this and enjoy a little more freedom than the people in these fenced off areas, okay? We'll see. Let's see where this person's going. They're using public transport and going home. Okay, looks like they've just been visiting the prison. Likewise with him. Okay, let's find out where some people that are entering the prison are going. He's an agent at the large prison block. Okay. Get some police cars coming in too. You gonna drop prisoners off, are you? Yes, they are. And they come into here. Oh no, taking them all the way around. I guess that's fine. Yes, I love that they just get dropped off at the front door and then just walking of their own free will. That's hilarious. That's great. Okay. Wonderful. So I'm happy to have this as a kind of secondary prison block. Now, I don't really want to go any closer to this main southern arterial here where the trams are. Because, you know, I want that. Oh, this bloody road cactus again. So sorry. Will turn off anarchy at one point. But, you know, I don't want to come any closer to this southern arterial now because I want that kind of feeling of isolation. Like there is a little bit of open, dead, empty desert between the prison and the rest of the town. And then why don't we come back into this road now and we can begin to develop perhaps a third and final main facility that sits as part of this prison complex. Again, we'll throw out some angles and perhaps bring in a little curve here. Let's go for a one-way road. Okay, so let's go for this. Bring that in. Again, we can paint out with a surface painter. Go for the gravel one this time. Okay. And let's also do a touch of node controller on here. Take the markings off. Set it to a 15 offset. No road markings, there we go. And our tree palette can come back in. Why don't we try using some of the new content creator trees? Really happy with these ones. Of course, we'll cover all of this new stuff in our noobs guide. But you know, we can have so many more little greenbelt palettes now with these trees. Really good work by Mr. Mason. Let's get some different types of palms in. Maybe a little colourful tree as well, okay? So don't mind that. Slightly more interesting way to end the road. Come back into our prison. We'll go with another large prison block to sit here. That's going to be wonderful. Let's come back into the pathways and grab the prison fencing again. Okay, I also want to grab some prison roads so we can hopefully come off one of these roads here. That's going to be mostly ideal, I think. Make sure we're snapping to an angle as well as we come down here. Okay, so these guys won't snap onto a prison road, but will move it still work if we spin you around. Yes, it will. This is helpful. Okay, then. So with that in mind, let's start introducing perhaps some of these lower security vibes. I feel like an ore industry maintenance building wouldn't really go amiss either. I think maybe over here with our service assets, though. Okay, and then again, we'll just grab a little move it function off of here. And then place in some of these smaller blocks over this way facing the highway. Again, complemented with some watchtowers now. Alright, that's probably going to make sense for this road. The one with the fence in anyway to run down into somewhere, possibly out of here if it doesn't mess up the roundabout, which I don't think it is going to. That's grand. And again, we're now starting to see fence on highway vibes starting to make themselves known, which again is really going to help hammer home our prison vibe, isn't it? Okay, definitely not hating it for the time being. Definitely enjoying it. You could argue maybe this is a little close to the highway. If there was someone to break out, then you'd have a really easy escape. Let's go and like hijack a car off the highway and you're good. And yep, let's bring more fencing down here too. Okay, so let's return and have a look at this facilities block now as well. Let's just bring everyone up so we're parallel with the prison road, and I guess that's going to be somewhat of a sensible place to kind of bring the build to a close over this side. So we are also playing with the power substation asset. Now I mentioned that a lot of prisons tend to have their own facilities. You can see that shelter asset we've used today as well on there. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Let's go with a couple of substations here, right? I think I'm happy with that. Now I also want some solar panels here too, which I realise is double power production, but it's going to be okay. Let's come to the start of the city where we have a bunch of these solar panels. I need to change the theme again, don't I? Which we will do. So we'll grab a few of these solar panels from the start of the city. And again, perhaps we can move them so we're sat over here at a couple of different places, okay? We'll have a few rows of these solar panels in. Again, something that can probably be improved by painting out with some kind of sandy surface painter here, right? Just want it all concrete and all sand today, okay? We'll do some different textures and themes with the roads. Bring that up there. We'll also probably paint out the whole first area of the prison using this tool as well. I think I'm happy with that. At least for the most part, we can always review at the end, right? But I think I'm mostly happy with it. Let's also have a look at the possibility of some garbage processing over here too. So I am playing with some recycling centres, and you could almost imagine, you know, for prisoners that have been on good behaviour, they might be sent to work here to filter through some recycling to keep themselves busy. There's also a smaller version. Not hating it right now, but it certainly wants a little more work doing to it. Let's also dive into the world of Rico warehouses as well, because we definitely want some more of these kind of heavier storage vibes happening over here, okay? So let's come out with another road here and see if we can position something on this side as well. Let's go for one of these smaller warehouses. And again, we're seeing opportunities where we can come in with the vanilla pavement path to continually create these little alleyways that we're so fond of, that run between the different assets. One behind here as well. And then all this can just be very simply surface painted out, because it's all the same texture, so we shouldn't really have an issue. And I think again, maybe if we come in with some of our scuffed up decals, just to take a little bit of the polish and shine off of all this kind of mass concrete, just so it looks a little bit more weathered. I think you definitely get this vibe in a prison, especially over in those courtyards as well. All around here, a little more scuffed up. Alright. Let's also again dive into the wonderful world of Industries DLC warehouses. I think again we're going to store just some zoned commercial goods. I want to make sure we don't put too much pressure on this initial road network today. Otherwise it could become pretty busy. Lots of people walking to the prison there, which I guess is good. A lot of them I would imagine will be high school students heading into the main administration building here. Alright, we're now starting to see the facility grow, and this is very much what I wanted, okay? Lots of space between each of the 3 blocks, and there's lots of kind of natural overgrown desert detailing to be had in the spaces between them today during our detailing time lapse as well. Okay, but the vibe is certainly starting to grow here, isn't it? And you know guys, I recently heard a rumour about butter, but I've decided not to spread it. And the last thing I want to work on today is something of a visitor centre, I think, before we move into a detailing time-lapse. I'm thinking maybe if the prisoner has been in good behaviour, they can meet their family and whatnot here, under the supervision of the guards, of course, and maybe come and spend a little time with, you know, loved ones on a little bit of day release, maybe. I'm not sure if American prisons have a day release program. Maybe, I'm not sure. Probably not the maximum security facilities, but we can pretend, right? So I think I'm feeling here, let's go for a couple of basketball courts. Place these in right next to each other. That's going to be fine. Let's also grab maybe a community pool as well. Maybe a little bit of back-to-back community action. And we'll fence all this in as well, of course. think we can probably justify the inclusion of another kind of fence road in here as well. How about this little suburban police station on the corner? Okay. And maybe we might be able to squeeze in one of our baseball parks as well. One of these over here, perhaps. Okay. I don't think I'm totally adverse to it. And again, we definitely just want to surface paint under the baseball field, just so it gets rid of the grass sprites. It seems to be the best way of doing it. We'll tidy up our surface paint to work throughout the build today as well. I don't think that's going to be too bad, okay? And again, there's opportunities now where we can continually bring these walkable pathways through so people can move between the assets with anarchy on as well. We might also get some slight garden vibes out here, okay? A few gazebos maybe, some benches to sit and enjoy the outside space. So we'll see what we can develop with this idea as well. So I think now we're getting some spikes in residential demand. So I'm going to start bringing in some more zonable spaces for our residential patterns. And we'll also develop a couple of strip malls as well to sit just kind of in front of the prison facility here today. So we're going to paint out a new district here. We've decided that we need to stop using a lot of the American eclectic assets because they are ridiculously lag intensive. Like, they eat my frame rate like crazy. So we're going to come down into a different theme here. So we're going to paint out a new district, which is going to be Imperator Square. Wonderful. You guys all know Imperator if you haven't checked him out. So we'll enable Themes Manager and then go for Rural US Res, which is one of my own custom themes, which is just using the University City assets. So bring that up here. Start to connect people in. Some more zonable spaces for residential. So we'll be able to position these up against the main road too. Also hopefully see some more people using the tramways to get back and forth from this part of town. For which we can use our vanilla path here to just link people through. It'll also be helpful where the stops are too. Make sure we shout the fence pattern here. So we did come up with the idea of maybe painting out some of this as grass to just occupy a slightly more landscaped area where the trams flow through. Which I think I'm still on board with this idea, okay? Fantastic. Otherwise, guys, that does feel like a good place for a detailing time-lapse. We've got a lot of work to do, and it's come through and tidy up a lot of this surface painter work, both in and around the complexes as well. I continue to detail with props in these kind of prison courtyards, so the prisoners have some kind of recreation to do. Bring in some natural Ilos green belt, so we have kind of our wild Ilos fields all around the edge of the prison. Let's get this zoned up as well, so we have some kind of fronted residential facing this area, and then also develop a couple of little strip malls, very much in the vein that we have done over here. Just so we've got a little bit of commercial setting up against that main arterial road, which will help give us a little bit of a border between the prison facility and this kind of main road here as well. So that should hopefully tie things up quite nicely. But otherwise, let's detail, and we'll be right back. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares below really help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. And if you've fallen in love with the content, there are ways to support me down below as well. Really happy with this. First time I've built kind of a modded prison build. Lots of different ideas to get involved with, and again, taking inspiration from Google Earth is massive for these sorts of builds. I love the way that it sits against the highway, especially with the watchtowers now as well. There was a ton of detail and you guys wouldn't have seen, so please do hang around for the rest of the outro charge to see how our new build fits into Ilos today. Otherwise, I will shut up and we'll leave it there. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.